In the last 4 months, I've been traveling around in Australia and in Southeast Asia. In these couple months, I met beautiful people, I saw beautiful places, I worked different jobs, so I had lots and lots of beautiful experiences. The time also has been going very fast, and in those videos I would like to share you how I experienced the things and show you the things that I've seen through my eyes as good as possible, in order for you to learn about the places that I travel to. So I hope them to be entertaining and at the same time inspiring. My journey started 4 months ago when I flew from Belgium to Perth, and Perth is in West Australia. This was my first destination, and I went there with not a lot of money and just with the intention to go there and just go with the flow, find a job and just travel around and work, and this would be a great opportunity for me to meet new people and gain new experiences in life. So I had some plan, which you could see in my first video, where I planned out how my future was going to look like. But of course, like most people who are traveling, things don't really work out how you expect them to go. You plan things and then other things happen, you get other ideas, you meet new people, and you just want to do other things. And that is the beauty of traveling. It's always a mystery around the corner. One thing about traveling is that a lot of people want to go do it, but they're kind of nervous, or maybe they don't know if it's possible for them, and maybe it's a little fear that holds them back. So you have to just step in the dark and know that even when you step in the dark, you will always step on something. And this something, we always think that it's going to be very bad, but most of the times it's not. And when it came to traveling for me, when I was in West Australia, honestly, I'm 23, I'm quite tall, so I was a little worried about what was going to happen. I stepped on a plane with 2 friends to a country on the other side of the world where I know nobody, so I was a little bit nervous about this. And then I came in Australia and I meet people who are younger than me, like 18 or 19 years old, who are basically doing the same thing as me but alone. So yeah, just this, and experience it now, I know there is nothing I need to be afraid for. At least not in Australia, because I'm planning to travel other countries as well. I don't know how it will turn out there. But as far as it goes to Australia, it is such a safe environment to travel around, and I've been really, really enjoying it. So when I first landed in Perth, I've been to a hostel which is called Ocean Beach Backpackers, and I've stayed there for a couple weeks. I had an amazing time there. It's a beautiful hostel. It is very close to the beach. It's right next to the beach, actually. You can just walk out and you are on the beach. The downside of the hostel was that it's far away from the city. When you are a person who likes to go out, especially to clubs and bars, then you're far away from the city, so you're gonna have to take an Uber or the train. And when you're taking the train and the Uber all day, then it's gonna cost you a lot of money. The second thing is that I like to go to the gym. I try to never have 3 days without exercise, just to stay healthy. And therefore I also had to take a bus to go to the gym. So when I added up all the trains and the buses, then it got very expensive to live in that hostel, because I pay rent for the hostel and then I also need to pay transport a couple times a day. And therefore I decided to move to a hostel closer in the city. So I met a guy in the hostel who also wanted to go to the city. His name is Dennis, and I started to travel with him, and so we moved together to the city. We first went to another hostel, which was the Old Swan Barracks. I didn't really like this hostel for the reason that the hostel was quite old. The kitchen was on the 3rd floor, on the 2nd floor, and when you want cooking dishes, then you have to go all the way to the 1st floor. So to make a long story short, you had to wake up, go downstairs, then take the dishes you want, then go all the way up, cook your food, wash your dishes, and go all the way back down to go back up to your room again. So this got a little bit annoying over the time. Luckily, I only stayed there for one night because also the rooms, I was in a big dorm, the beds weren't that good. I don't mean to badmouth the hostel, but this is just my experience and I didn't want to stay there longer. So we moved to another hostel, which was the North Lodge. And this was not really a hostel, it was more like a building where a woman rented out, not apartment, just rooms basically. But most hostels, and when you were a backpacker you know this, but most hostels, they have like a very living atmosphere. Some hostels are a very big party hostel. There is always people drinking there, people going out, always people eating together, people cooking together, and you didn't have this in the North Lodge because, sorry, the North Lodge basically offered you a place to sleep, and that's it. You had a kitchen and a place to sleep, but there was not really a place to meet new people. So this was the downside. The upside was that we had a private room. The other reason why I moved to the city was because I found a job in a bar. So, of course, I'm on a working holiday visa. I'm not very rich, so I'm gonna have to work. And I started to look for work. So the first job that I had was a job at a fair. And the way I got this job was when I was still in Cottesloe, so the first destination, at the Ocean Beach Backpackers Hostel. I was just sitting there outside in the area where most people are chilling, hanging around in the evening, and all of a sudden a guy walks in and he just says, "Hey guys, somebody is here, looking for work?" Question mark. Of course he didn't say question mark, but he said it in a way like he was asking for it. So I said, "Yeah, actually, yeah." And my friend at the time, Arne, he said, "Yeah, also, yeah, we're looking for work." "Okay, I need 2 or 3 people. Can you come with me tomorrow and work there?" So we said, "Sure, let's do it." And then we started working there. So basically what I was doing there was standing at the shooting stands. I was helping children to play the game. And the game was that they had to shoot over Marvel figures. And when they shot over the Marvel figures, I had to give them a prize. So it was a very easy job. And it earned good money. I think I earned, in 3 days, I earned $600 there. And the third day I only worked for 5 hours. Arne earned $200 more, but he worked one day for 13 hours where I worked only for 5 hours. So yeah, in that way, sorry for the noise, there's just a woman and a child passing by. So yeah, he earned a little more money there. But this was the first job I had in Australia. What can I learn from this is that you have to be very social. When you're very social, you're hanging around in the right place, you will get opportunities to work. By the way, it's very cloudy here now. I just came back from a trip on Fraser Island. On the time that I'm filming this, I'm already in Sydney, in West Australia, in East Australia, on a road trip to Cairns. No, sorry, I'm not in Sydney. I'm on a road trip from Sydney to Cairns, which is a road trip on the East Coast. And yeah, the reason I make the video so late is basically because I was lazy and I never edited the video. So I actually collected the footage that you're seeing, but I never sat down and took the time to actually make the videos. So that's what I'm doing now. So voila, this was the first job that I did in Australia. The second job was a job in a bar. So I don't know if you remember the Khabib versus Conor McGregor fight. I was in Australia, in Perth back then when it was happening. And of course I wanted to see it because I'm a fan of the UFC. And I went to a bar and I really liked the environment in that bar. So I asked them there if they were looking for people, and I got hired a couple days later. Well, I didn't get hired straight away, but they asked me if I want to do a trial. So I went on a 2-hour trial and they hired me. So this was a sports bar in Perth, but it was also a nightclub in the same building. So I worked in a nightclub and in a sports bar. I earned around, I can't really remember, I think it's $25 an hour in the week. $30 on the Saturdays and $35 on Sundays. So it came to $500 a week, but I only worked 2 or 3 days. So it was good money. I had around $2,000 to $2,500 a month for working 2 to 3 days. So this was very good. For the other time in Perth, in my first couple weeks in Australia, I basically just checked out the city. I did different things. I went to Kings Park, for example, which is very nice. When you go to Perth, then you of course have to visit Kings Park. You have a beautiful view all over the city that you will see right now. And yeah, it's just beautiful, beautiful nature. So Perth is a very beautiful city, but I would not go again because I've already seen it, and there are more beautiful cities in Australia than Perth. For example, Sydney, I find Sydney way more fun to be there just because it's way bigger and there's a lot more going on there. But when you want to see Australia and you are on the East Coast, the West Coast, then definitely go to Perth. It's very beautiful. I did different things there in the city. There's always something going on. For example, I went to an open air movie. So this is basically just a big movie on the screen with all bean bags that you can sit in. It's very cozy on a warm summer night to go and watch a movie. So I went to a comedy club. I tried to have an open mind and try new things. So I went to a comedy club and it was very fun. I don't know how comedy is in the rest of the world, but this was one of the first time I've experienced it and I really enjoyed it. So thank you to the comedy club. I think the name of it was actually the Comedy Club. I'm not sure. Anyway, another job that I did in Perth was door-to-door selling. And I actually didn't do the job, I just went on a trial. So I basically walked with one of the people who worked there the whole day so I could check out what the job was like. And since I already had door-to-door experience, it was very easy for me to get this job. Yeah, I didn't really like it. So I went on a trial week. It was nice to do a trial day, sorry. It was nice to do it because I went to see a little of Australia outside the city. We were driving 1 hour out of the city. And then we came in this beautiful city where people were just living around a lake and they all had boats in their backyards. They had jet skis in their backyard. They had beautiful houses. It was a tropical environment. So it was very nice to see. And since I was knocking their doors talking about solar energy, I had the opportunity to meet those people, and I was of course very curious who those people were because they looked very wealthy. When you saw those houses, it looked like they were very wealthy people, but actually those were people who worked in the mines. And of course not all of them, but a lot of the people there, they worked in the mines, and the reason that they could afford a house like that, which was around $2 million, that's what they told me, is just because when you work in the mines, you earn a lot of money. So you might not know it, but in Australia, there's a very, very big mining industry. And the people who work there, they basically work a couple weeks in a row, every day, and then they go back home, and then they are a couple weeks on holiday. So then basically they live on the mining side. There's a kid there having fun. So yeah, basically, the people in the mining earn good money there. I also worked in the mines myself for 2 weeks. I did trials for a company. I enjoyed it. The money was very good. I will tell you more about that later in the video. Another thing I did in Perth, I was the Harrison Island. If you would like to see, there are no kangaroos. It's a smaller version of a kangaroo. But anyway, they look like kangaroos. Wallabies, I think they are wallabies. If you want to see them in Perth, then you can go to the Harrison Island, which is a small island right next to the city. I went there, saw some kangaroos, it was pretty fun. The other thing I did was the Rottnest Island. Of course, Rottnest Island, a very popular attraction in Perth. It is very beautiful there. And the Rottnest Island basically is a huge island next to Perth, where you travel to with a boat. And when you are on the island, then we rented an electric bicycle so we could travel around the whole island and see everything that the island has to offer. So we could see quokkas, we saw a snake, we saw beautiful beaches and places where the sea hits the rocks, so the water turns like very bright and blue, and it was a day with a lot of sunshine, so it was just very, very beautiful to experience. Some downsides about my trip to the Rottnest Island, and I don't mean to be too negative, it's just how I experienced things, is one thing is that the boat was way too expensive. I took other boats now in Sydney, for example, they use the boats just as public transport, so you can take a boat just like you use a bus. And I pay there sometimes $5 to go on a 15-minute boat ride. But the Rottnest Island boat was a similar boat. It was not a lot more luxurious or something. And it took us 40 minutes or 1 hour to get there. I don't really remember exactly. But we paid $60 for the tickets. So when you compare it, I think it can be a little cheaper, but of course, because the company is offering tours to the Rottnest Island, it's a business, they want to earn money about it. Of course, they're going to ask money for it. But yeah, I found this quite expensive. The other thing is that we rented electric bicycles, and you could choose between normal and electric bicycles. So everyone was taking normal bicycles of our group. So me and Dennis, we were looking at each other, and I said, like, maybe it's better to take electric bicycles, yeah, because we're lazy. And so yeah, sure, but let's ask how long the battery will last. So I asked one of the co-workers there, hey, sorry, but how long does the battery last? And he says, yeah, no worries, you can do the whole day with the battery. So I think, okay, no worries, we'll take it. It was double the price of a normal bike, but yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So we take the electric bicycle, and then we go to the next stop where we have to do the checkout, which basically is taking your helmet, doing some last things before you can leave. So there is another person working there, and I say again, sorry, but how long do you think the battery will last from the bicycles? And then he said, yeah, you can do the whole island with it. You can do the whole island without worries, without a doubt. So we say, okay, we go, and of course, after 1 hour driving, the battery already drops to 50%. So I look at Dennis and I say, this will never last the whole day. But whatever, we'll see. So we keep on driving, and the battery, of course, dies. The bike is very heavy. It was a very windy day, so you don't want to drag the bike all the way back. So we call the company, which had a phone number on the bike, and we say, hey, sorry, but you promised that the bike will do the whole day, but it already died. They say, no worries, we'll bring you a new battery. So we had to wait there. We waited for 30 minutes, and then they came with a truck, brought us new batteries, and then we could go on. So it's a good thing that they brought us new batteries, but we wasted 30 minutes by sitting down. So we continue our journey, and after 2 or 3 hours, again, the battery dies. So we call them again. We say, sorry, but the battery died again. Can you bring us a new battery? And then they said, what, the battery died again? It never happened that people needed so much batteries, they say. And then we just said, like, yeah, I don't know what happens, but our battery dies. So it was a little miscommunication. If they just would have been honest about it, we could have taken a normal bike, but just because they promised it to us, I didn't really feel embarrassed to just call them and say, hey, you promised this, so now I expect you to bring a new battery. But they did it, and they were very friendly, so it still was a very nice experience. It just was a little miscommunication about the duration of the battery. I also went to the zoo in Perth because I just like watching animals. And compared to the zoo we have in Antwerpen, I didn't find it very spectacular, but it still was a very fun day. The last thing that I want to talk about is my job that I did, the last job in Perth. They just start playing very loud music there. I think it's a sport class or something. But anyway, we carry on. So the last job I did in Perth was a job in the mines. So as I already talked about, working in the mines in Australia earns good money. It's also very heavy because you have to deal with the fact that you're far away, isolated for a long time, because you work inside the country, which means you're basically in the middle of nowhere with a lot of people who also work there. I'm sorry. But when you want to do your second year in Australia, your second working holiday visa, you need to have 88 days of eligible work in Australia. This means that you have to do 88 days in a certain category of work. It can be farm work, but there are other ways as well. I haven't really found out yet how exactly it works, but some people told me that you can also work in bars, in restaurants, for example, if you do it in the north of the country. You can also work in different kinds of jobs, but like I said, I didn't really figure it out myself yet. I can tell you later in other videos how it went, but I'm going to try to find a job where I don't have to actually work on a farm, because the stories I heard about farms is that it's not very pleasant. So there will of course be very good farms. I heard good stories about it as well, but most of the times it's very hard labor, the loans are not that high, you're working in the heat and so forth. Um, so working in the mines for me looked perfect because first of all it earned very well, second of all it counted for my farm days, and the third good part was that they paid for my accommodation. So they paid for my food, they paid for my transport, they paid for my accommodation, everything was arranged, so it was a very good job. So what happened is I met a guy in my hostel, his name is Marcel. If you're watching, thank you very much, Marcel. He told me about his journey, and he also had a similar journey like me. Basically, he was working for a company in the mines, and it immediately sounded very interesting to me. So I kept on asking questions to him, and what he did, he was that he was working as a geophysical field assistant. So this means that he basically was driving around on a quad and in four-wheel drives and doing measurements to see which materials are in the bottom soil of the ground. So after we do the measurements, then the drilling team come and take a sample to see what's in the ground, and if there are good materials in the ground, then afterwards they will do a mine there. So they will build a mine there, and then they take the materials out of the mines, which earns the money, of course. So I asked him, like, how can I get that job? Did you have experience? Did you study for it? He said, no, I didn't have experience, I didn't study for it, I just found it on Gumtree, which is an app to find jobs. So I was very excited. I really wanted to do it as well, so I started working for it. I started looking online, and 1 week later I meet him again, and then we started talking about it again. He said, yeah, did you look for it? And he helped me to adapt my resume a little bit. Again, thank you very much. And then he said, hey, I found an ad from another company who's doing the same, and I applied for it, and the day after I had a conversation, and I was hired for a trial week. So I did a trial week, and after that week they would tell me if I could stay or not. So I did that week, and then basically what I was doing was driving with a truck with a four-wheel drive, and then we lay out a long steel cable, and then the quad driver, because you always work in a team, he will connect the cables, and then the reader will do the readings, and in the meantime we just have to wait. So basically what I had to do was drive the four-wheel drive with the GPS 100 meters forward, then wait until the reading is done, then move it again, and then in the meantime while we were waiting we had to connect the cables, turn the machine on, keep the machine clean, and so forth. So it was not physically hard labor, but it was boring at the time, because you're in the heat, you're in the desert, you're doing 10-hour days, so it's very repetitive work. So that got a little tiring, but still it was worth it, because again it was very good money, counted for my farm days, and I really enjoyed my colleagues as well. I really liked the job, actually. So after this trial week, because I wanted it so badly, I was asking my colleagues, like, are you satisfied with my work that I'm doing? If not, tell me so I can improve it, and so forth. And then they said, yeah, we really like your work. You're probably gonna be asked back, because we really liked working with you. At least that was what one guy was telling me. So yeah, after that week, I went on another week. So I had a holiday planned. I was planning to go to Bali. I already planned it before I started working for the company. And then I said it to my boss. I said, like, I really want to start, but I already have this holiday booked, so to go to Bali and then to Sydney for New Year. But I said, listen, I really want to work for this company, so if you want me to start working now, I will not go on my holidays. I will just leave it like that. But if I can go on my holidays, it would be, of course, very nice. So he said, you know what, no worries, you can go on your holidays if you work another week straight after this week. So I said, sure, no problem. And in that week, we did the same job, but we did it on another location. So this time I've been on a road trip. I drove with the car from Perth all the way inside the country to Kalgoorlie, and then from Kalgoorlie to Fraser Range, which was 2 more hours driving than Kalgoorlie. And then we did basically the same job there. So the difference was that this time I didn't fly to the destination. So yeah, I haven't told that yet. The first week I flew to the mining camp, because it's so far inwards the country and Australia is so huge. I flew to the mining camp and I flew back out after the week. So this time I drove there and I did the same job for a week. It was again very nice. It was with other colleagues. It was with other accommodations. So this time we had actually a cook that cooked for us. The food was amazing, absolutely delicious. And the cook turned out to be a Dutch guy, so I got to know him that way as well. So yeah, basically I did those 2 weeks. After that I went on holiday, but unfortunately after my holiday I called them and I said, when can I start again? And then they told me there is no work at the moment. So I haven't contacted them again yet today. I'm definitely gonna do that. But yeah, that was pretty sad because I was running out of money at the time, and I still am. I'm gonna start looking for another job now, but I already worked again in another place. But that's for another video. But yeah, it was a big bummer at the time because I really looked forward to start working there again. But the flip side of it was that I got to travel a little bit more with my friend who joined me later, which is another story for another video. But yeah, I had 2 weeks. I earned good money in those 2 weeks. It was I think it was $300 a day that I earned there, and I worked for 14 days straight. So yeah, you can do the math. It was very good money. Do notice that the $300 a day is before tax, so tax is around 15%. So yeah, it earned very good money. So voila, this was my story of my first journey in Perth. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and of course I will continue making videos so you can see the journey that I'm going through. And voila, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you.